What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be working on the H2B CRX a little bit more. Now, I did contemplate on working on my wagon today, but I realized what I'm trying to do, I don't have materials for. I mentioned in a couple H2B CRX videos that the fan and radiator setup in this car is not efficient enough to drive around town or drive long terms. This car has a plated H2B setup which leans the engine forward, and with a combination of the turbo setup, it pushes the turbo and manifold towards the radiator support, which then kind of takes up a lot of space for like a full-size radiator or a half-core radiator. So my solution for the car at the time was to throw in a drag radiator by Speed Factory, which has a built-in shroud and a 9-inch SPAL fan. But the 9-inch SPAL fan only draws 590 CFM and is not enough to cool the car down while driving the car longer than a quarter mile. It's kind of one of the main reasons why I haven't really driven this car, because it just heats up way too fast and haven't really gotten around to find a solution to solve that issue. Now that we're working back on the H2B CRX, I have been looking into solutions to try to solve the situation, and they do have another 9-inch fan, but it only draws 755 CFM, and I still don't think that's enough because it's still lesser than what the OEM fan draws. Now, the next size up is 10-inch fan, and they have an 1130, and that's quite a lot. Except the overall size of the fan of the 10-inch is 11.2 width and height, and the Speed Factory drag radiator is only 10-inch wide, so it's going to overhang, and I probably don't want it to overhang, so I'm probably not going to upgrade it to the 10-inch fan. And with me not upgrading it to the 10-inch fan, we're kind of stuck, right? And then I figured, let's go back to my original first solution. Before the drag radiator, I did buy this triple core aluminum radiator from eBay, and this is thick, right? But it is too wide, and this whole entire section actually hits the downpipe and the turbo, which is why I never ran it. I threw the drag radiator in just to get the car to the dyno, and it has been in the car since. But I figured, you know what, because I already have it, let's try to modify it. Let's trim this core and re-weld it to make it fit between the radiator support and the turbo. I've done the same exact mod on the LSV Tech CRX we did a couple years ago, the FLIP-RX CRX, and I also did the same mod on my budget race car, my H22 turbo race car. I did the same mod and it worked fine, but I ran a smaller fan then. If I can cut this 14 down to a 12 and make the 12 fit, we can run a 12-inch fan. 12-inch fans have a ton of different CFM ratings, and the one I personally run in my car is a SPAL 12-inch fan that draws 1300 CFM that I buy from Real Street Performance, and dude, it cools all my cars down. So if I can make this radiator fit 12-inch wide, we'll probably just end up buying that same radiator fan and use that to cool the car down. So enough jibber jabber, guys. I'm just gonna go ahead and start working on the car. Let's get to it. So I want to show you guys this really quickly. This lower radiator support has been modified for a half core. You can see how much I cut to try to move it forward away from these parts of the turbo component, right? But because we were cutting it so close to the dyno, I didn't actually finish it, which is why you guys can see it's rusted out and the whole lower radiator support is not painted. I made these little brackets right here that bolt up to the core support to hold up the drag radiator just for the time being, and I knew that eventually I was going to try to do something else with the radiator, and that time is now. So what I need to do is just really do a bunch of test fitting. I need to do a bunch of test fitting before I start making any types of cuts to make sure this is what we're gonna do. The radiator itself is 14 wide, right? 14 wide, and you can see that it is right up on the flange and right up on the downpipe. Well, not really on the downpipe, but if I was to put the fan on, it'll be right into the downpipe. So what I want to do is I want to narrow this down to 12. So we're going to be cutting pretty much where this line is at right here, and as long as I can fit a 12-inch fan with a shroud, we should be okay, right? So 12 right there, that's plenty for a full-size 12-inch fan. I got my marks right there on top, all the way across, and all the fins in between are just going to get torn out. We're just going to tear all those fins out. So I'm going to use my Harbor Freight Hercules horizontal bandsaw adapter to a vertical bandsaw. This thing comes in super duper clutch, and I actually lost a plate for it, but this is my original plate from the DIY one that I had. So I'm gonna go ahead and just chop it with that. Should be easy to do. So we lost a lot of time. I was actually like sitting here watching these two dudes being weird over there by the fence. They were throwing a bunch of stuff over, and I went to go check them to make sure that they weren't throwing trash, because somebody left a giant pile of trash there like 2 or 3 days ago, and they were actually bringing it over to haul it out of here. I don't know where they were taking it, but they are gone. So what I've been doing is I've been tinkering with the radiator. I think we left off with you guys where we cut the tanks off and we were clearing the fin. This guy right here, we were clearing this off the core itself because that's what we removed. We took off about 2 inches because this was a 14 overall width, and now we chopped it down to 12. Now this fan right here, I took it off my wagon radiator, and just to mock it up, because I wanted to put a 12 on here to make sure we can clear and see what the clearance looked like between the downpipe. And we have just a little issue. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this into the engine bay real quick and show you guys what I'm talking about. I did trim the fan a little bit right here because it was already kind of beat up anyway. So I trimmed the fan because that's where it kind of hits the downpipe, just to fit it in place, even though it still interferes with the downpipe. All right, so we have the radiator kind of just sitting here, and it's pretty leveled from what I can see, right? And it actually is just sitting up by itself because of all the stuff that it is actually touching. But I wanted to make sure that the height was okay for the hood to close, and we lobbed the fill neck off because we have one right here in the back, and it clears, right? Cool. So I have not figured out a mounting solution yet because we still need to modify more, but it does hang past the core support, which is the reason why I chopped it the first time, right? Because I want to tuck it. And what's really holding it up is the bottom fill right there, just resting on the traction bar. That's one of my issues because it's resting on there and there's not enough lip for the hose. So I might have to either extend it or relocate it. I haven't figured it out yet. Right here, you can see it's touching the fan just a little bit. You can see that giant gap down there. It's literally just this section that's touching. And honestly, if I cut the housing, it'll clear. But if I'm spending $200 for a, you know, a new fan, I don't want to cut it. So my other solution would be to cut the downpipe and bend it tighter, right? S it tighter, so that way I can open up the gap between the downpipe and the fan. I can get pies from the homie Kel and just pie it really tight to the runner, and then shoot it back down and then reconnect it to the downpipe, because I'm not going to build a whole new one, just redo the top section, and that's going to clear the fans. Right now I'm actually going to take off to go get food with my nephew, and then we're going to continue this tomorrow. Here's one bracket. I cut a piece of radiator hose and stuck it on the bottom outlet. You can see it right there. And we have clearance between the traction bar, which I'm stoked about. Now, the last thing we need to do is make a mount on the top right here. And I'm actually going to utilize an OEM bracket, like so. I'm going to pull the radiator back, and then I'm going to put an aluminum rod on the top and weld that in place, and that should be our third mount to hold the radiator where I need it to be. That right there, guys, is the third mount utilizing the factory bracket. Radiator is fixed in the place, and we don't have any touching issues with the downpipe. We used some random brackets that I found in my bin, which I actually took apart my garage to find this box. Now this box right here had a bunch of miscellaneous like OE brackets, traction bar, radiator brackets, which is what I use the brackets, which are these 90s, and you bolt it to the traction bar to hold up the radiator. And I ended up not using these U-hooks because it wasn't going to work with where the radiator is going to be placed, where I needed to mount this. So this box, I dug around just miscellaneous brackets and stuff that I use for like intercoolers and stuff. So we lost a lot of daylight, obviously, even though it's only it's like 5:20 right now. But the radiator got all the bracketry to hold it in place, and I'm stoked about it because now we have a somewhat almost full half core, which is larger than the Speed Factory drag one before. So I just got to finish welding it up entirely. I got to put the plate on right here in the front after I put the bottom plate for the end tank. I left it open because I wasn't sure how I was going to run the bottom radiator hose outlet, but I was able to make it clear the traction bar right there, because originally I was just going to put like 1-inch tubing to kind of go around and drop the radiator lower. But with this bracket on, that already tells me enough that this will clear the hood and I don't have to go any further down. So I'm stoked about that. Let me double check it one more time here. Dude, we are golden, nothing is touching. Let me get you guys a flashlight. We are not touching up there, and I'm happy about that. Heck yes. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull the radiator back off and finish welding it up entirely. And I think that's all I can do as far as the radiator modification goes, because I gotta wait for the fan to show up to make further mods to it and the whole downpipe situation. So let's knock that out real quick. I got all the brackets cleaned up and they are all wrinkled black. It is dry, but I'm gonna let it sit for a couple of days before I bolt it on. Lower bracket also wrinkled black. This thing is looking nice, clean, and uniform, although you're really not gonna see it because it's underneath the car. And then you guys saw that I also 3M rubberized, undercoated the lower section of the support. Now factory, they do come black to about here-ish, and I never really got around to doing it. I usually paint the whole entire like front radiator support and everything, and then I paint the black after. And I knew I was modifying all of this, so I never really got around to like doing that. And now that we are finalized, the brackets and everything's all made, and there's no more mods I need to do to the lower support, I finally rubberized it. So looking nice and uniform. Make sure I didn't get crazy oversprays anywhere. I did get a little bit on the traction bar, but brake cleaner takes it off. So this is all nice and uniform. I'm stoked about it because this is like home stretch. This is home stretch. I'm obviously not going to put the radiator in tonight because the brackets are drying, and I haven't painted this either. I think what I'm going to do is, like I did the wagon, I'm gonna paint the top of the tank and the lower tank wrinkle black as well too, to kind of make it a little more stealth in the bay. Let me show you guys on the wagon's radiator. So if you look, silver on the side, wrinkle black on the top. It really flows nicely with like the whole theme going on here. And I don't want a lot of silver. I was contemplating on painting this black, but I think I'm gonna leave it silver, but everything else, you know, blacked out. So radiator is done for the most part. I welded wrong side. I welded the cap on here, and then I modified the plate, welded the plate on as well too, right? And this is pretty much ready after paint to go back in. I'm super stoked that the drag radiator is no longer going to be in the car. We were able to make this somewhat half-core radiator fit with a 12-inch fan around the H2B turbo setup. Now, I won't fully know the final fitment until the SPAL fan shows up, because I'm sure the SPAL fan might be a little bit thicker than the eBay one that we test fitted. Very anxious to know what the temperature is going to look like when I drive with the new radiator setup around town and also on the freeway, especially on the freeway, because I want to take this car to like car meets and stuff, and normally meets are like 30-minute plus for me, and I need to know that this new radiator setup is gonna hold temps down cruising on the freeway. I know I said the last big thing we need to do is final polish on the car, and we did just that, But now the radiator modification has also turned into a big job. But regardless of the fact, it is also somewhat done, and hopefully it'll be out of the way soon. I'm not sure if this car is going to make it to the NorCal CRX Owners Cruise, which is set for December 8th. If you guys are within the Northern California with a CRX and you guys want to join us, be sure to hit the link in the description below to the Facebook group for further details. But it just depends on if the fan shows up and we finalize everything before then. And if it looks good, we'll take it. If it doesn't, I guess we'll just drive the KRX. We're going to wrap it up for this video, guys. I hope you enjoy the progress update on the H2B CRX. We are nearing. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a thumbs up. And if you guys want to stick around for more progress update, I think I want to start sanding down the hood for my brother's car and his door. So if you guys want to stick around for some wagon stuff, be sure to hit the subscribe button. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.